Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Bare and Brutal podcast, the podcast where we bare our feelings and are brutally honest while highlighting stories of resilience and transforming pain into power. I'm your host, Michelle, and today we are tackling the topics of what to expect in marriage and motherhood, how to navigate being a boss mom, and the changes women experience from their 20s to their 30s. We'll also touch on growing pains in a cultural household and how to heal your inner child. We're joined with Celia and Cami, who are the hosts of the MomBetch podcast and our resident big sisters for today. Their podcast is awesome. It's dedicated to celebrating and inspiring and supporting women through the journey of modern motherhood. So thanks for joining us, Celia and Cami.
For
Yay.
having us. I
So
love
happy
the
to be
big
here.
sis vibes. We're here for it.
Yes, I'm so happy that we connected, and this has been like the most beautiful thing about having podcasts is just connecting people and just feeling like, are y'all wanting to connect? And you were, so I'm so glad we got to collaborate.
Yeah. We're excited.
So to start off, I would love if you could just walk the audience through how you began your journey as the MomBetch host and how the concept of it was even born. Like, what are some of the key takeaways that you want to highlight from the process of curating this like virtual village for mothers?
Yeah, I can take this one. So I think Camellia and I are very similar in the sense that we are both in our mid-30s, right? And we both are very career driven. I work for a digital marketing company. Camellia, she's in the OR, she's an anesthetist. So our careers are like foot forward, right? And we were married in our 30s, and naturally, thankfully, right, we kind of took that traditional path to begin our families. And I think both of us, right, not speaking for you, Cami, but like both of us were kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what? Whoa. What is this?
Literally.
I don't know about this. And so we realized, like, no matter what your situation is, whether you're a single parent or you are married with the best support system, you could be at either end of that stick and it's still messed up.
Yeah.
Ugh. And so we ultimately wanted to create a space where whether you plan to have a family in the future, or maybe you are pregnant yourself right now, or maybe you just went through a horrible loss, and maybe you are living your best mom dreams, right? Like, we just want a space where you feel like you're just talking to your girlfriend on like a random Tuesday. And on Tuesdays we do like pop culture fun, and then on Thursdays we do like very subject matter experts where we have really great guests that come in and speak to our audience on different topics.
Wow. Well, that is awesome. Cami, would you like to add anything to that? I'd love to hear your side.
So I really want to educate women because a lot of, and not just mothers in general, because we just really don't realize how much is, not talked about as far as our health, pre and postnatal, and just in general. So I try to get people on Thursdays that can really kind of open your horizons to things that you never knew were a thing. And so, I hope to get not just moms, but just, women in general, I think can get stuff from our podcast as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, when I was doing my homework on y'all, I was like falling in love with your website and just everything you stood for, because even though I'm in my 20s, haven't really begun to start a family yet. That's like way far off for me right now, but I love that you're just about women empowerment, and especially, your platform is geared towards working moms, and my mom raised 4 kids basically on her own, working jobs, and that's something, love my mom. She's a queen. Don't know how she did it. So, I wish that my mom had a platform like yours growing up, to have that support, because that's hard, and I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, coming off from that though, obviously my audience, naturally, I have a lot of 20-something-year-olds, early 30s listening. What is one piece of advice that you each could give to someone in their 20s, late 20s, who is kind of at that crossroads between choosing to pour more into their career and focusing on building a family? Because that's, I think, a lot of my friends right now, we kind of struggle, like, do we full on go with our career, or do we start thinking about the family?
I mean, I can go first,
Go
on this
first.
one. Yeah, I'll go first. So I'm going to answer this maybe a little differently. I think that the most important thing, right, whether you're single, in a relationship, engaged, married, is your partner. The
Mhm.
person that you choose to live your life with has to be aligned with your values. You guys have to be on the same page, because as you go through your 20s, you are changing, okay? One day you're going to be like 25 to 28 years old, and you are going to wake up and you are going to have a nervous breakdown. You are going to be like ugly crying, okay? Like not cute crying, like ugly crying, where you're like,
Kim Kardashian.
yes.
Yeah.
And then you're going to realize, like, I don't have it together. I don't even maybe know who I am. So my best advice is to take your time and to make sure that you're choosing your person appropriately. And it's going to be something that that 5-10 years down the road, your goals are aligned, because when you get into your 30s, you start to have a little bit more security in your life. You're starting to settle into a career that you're going to stay in for at least a few years, right? You're going to start to have those discussions on, do I want a family? And when it comes to that intersection, you and your partner have to be on the same page, because finances matter, right? Childcare matters. Like, you don't just get to change once you become a mom, right? Like, you
Yeah.
have to be on the same page as your partner to say, like, okay, am I going to work? Am I going to stay home? Can we afford childcare? Can we not? Do we want the same amount of kids? Like, you have, I mean, my easy answer is choose the best partner for you. And if you do, naturally, you will navigate through that space.
Yeah.
Easier.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Like, I've been with my boyfriend for going on 7 years now, and we
Wow.
have yeah. We grew up together. Like, I mean, I still think that I'm a kid. I'm 25, but I'm supposed to be an
I
adult,
still
but I
think
don't.
that too.
Yeah. But we literally, I think back to when we were like 18, and all the way up until
Wow.
now, we've gone through so many changes, and I don't think that's talked about enough. When you get in relationships, there's this expectation that it's going to be so easy, and that, if your partner changes or whatever and you don't get along, like, okay, it's time to go, like hot girl summertime. But
Yeah.
relationships take work, and you gotta be really
Absolutely.
intentional in who you are choosing to spend your life with. So thank you for making that point, Celia. Cami, what do you think on your end?
That's tough. I would say my values have changed a lot after having a baby. You don't really realize, like, you are one person, and then this happens, and now I'm a completely different person. So if you would have asked me, before I had my daughter, 100% my career, and laying that foundation. And I can't honestly be mad at that, because I went after my career, and I have the financial ability to take care of her and to, pay for daycare, because daycare is not cheap, y'all. It's so expensive. And so
expensive.
I would really think about and this is going to change. So it's really hard, and I struggled with this myself, even when I was married, like in my 30s. I was like, do I really want a child? I don't really know if this is for me. And it was a really, really tough question to answer. And I did a lot of soul searching for that. But I would say, even in your 20s, just try to identify what it is you really want out of life. What do you think is important to you? And if you're like, I want financial stability, I want to not have to think about, worry about what I'm going to eat, or where my kid's going to go. And if I want to be a single parent, because a lot of women, I know women that are doing that. They're getting embryos implanted and they're doing motherhood by themselves. And
Wow.
so if that's something that, you wouldn't mind doing, without a partner, because you want to be a mom so bad, and maybe you just don't meet the right person, because you don't want to settle. And if you want to be a mom that bad, then maybe you want that security so that you can
Yeah.
have all these avenues open for yourself in the future. So I don't necessarily think that's a bad avenue. I think always to like talk to your doctor, look at what are your options, egg freezing,
Mm-hmm.
things like that, to, because we all want to have it all, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you really can't, but you try
Mm-mm.
to get as close as you possibly can.
Yeah. Well, you said something about how we all want it all, and it made me
Mm-hmm.
think of I'm in this era in my life where it's like there's people who are starting their families. They're on,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
their honeymoons after getting engaged and married.
Yep.
And then I also have people who
Mm-hmm.
are, living at home with their parents, or like they're getting promotions at jobs, creating a startup, and it's so hard to get in this trap of comparing yourself. And I'd love it
Mm-hmm.
if I
Yeah.
could hear y'all's experience if you struggled with that. Like, how do you focus? It's so much easier to say like everyone's on their own path, but when you're looking around yourself and you see so many different
Mm.
people in different phases in their lives, it's so hard to think like, what am I doing? What am I doing? It's not enough. Like, everyone's doing so much better than me.
Yeah, I mean, so I think for us, we don't have that double-edged sword of social media as much, because it wasn't as popular when we were in our early 20s, so we didn't really have that, that heavy comparison. But obviously I do have that now. And I definitely had that a little bit with, like I was talking about, I didn't know whether or not I wanted to have a kid, and I started to have like anxiety about it. Like people at work were like announcing pregnancies left and right, and it started to affect me, honestly. And there is always going to be that aspect of it. But, you just have to try to drown out the noise. If it's
Mm-hmm.
not good for you to be on social media, then maybe you just don't need to be on social media. You need to identify what works for you. And I
Yeah.
think, as a culture, we tried, I'm gonna fit in, I'm gonna be normal. But at the end of the day, and I feel like in your 30s you figure this out, it's your mental health that matters. And
Yeah.
like fuck everything else. Do what you have to do to make your life better for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to add, like, take your time. Like a lot of times in your 20s, and I'm not like, don't get mad at me, betches, okay? But like, let's just look at the stats. If you get married before 30, there's a 50% chance you get a divorce, right? Like, that's really high. And I think it's even
Mm-hmm.
higher than 50%. I feel like a lot of times people are trying to grow up too fast. I got
Yeah,
married
I
at
agree.
33. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have my first baby and my only baby until 37, okay? Like, I lived my life, okay? I was a professional singer for a while in my 20s, then I got old and I did the career path, and now
Yeah.
we have the podcast, and we got married in our 30s. Like, don't rush it,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're always looking at what someone else is doing in that moment, you don't know what's going to happen to that
To
person
them.
5-10 years down the road,
Yeah.
right? So, okay, happy marriage, but maybe in
But
five
not really.
years, like, because they're in their 20s and they're both changing, they learn by the time they're 34, 35 years old that they no longer want the same things. They no longer want to live in the same place, right? Like, it so much changes between 25 and 35. It's unreal. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody tells you that. Like, I
Yeah.
never had anyone say, "Hey, Celia, you're changing." And then, like Camellia said, once you have a child, you're an entirely different person.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice is just to take your time.
Yeah.
Who cares if someone's getting married?
I agree with that so much because my
Ugh.
college best friend and I, we were just talking about this the other day. We're like, why did we waste so much time with boys? Because that's what they were. They were not men. They were boys, and like chasing
Yes.
them around. And who the fuck cares? Like
Yeah.
she's like, we should have spent more time together eating pizza and watching rom-coms. She's like, because that is what matters. So yes, ladies, enjoy your women friends. You know, have all the girls' nights because you know the men. And honestly, they just take time. You know, and there is that societal pressure.
They do
You know, to
take
get married.
time.
And I felt it too, you know, because everyone was doing it. Luckily, I found a good partner. But yeah, it definitely is a thing, and it's definitely there.
Yeah. Like, you couldn't pay me to have a relationship until after 30. Like, Camille, you've known me since then. Like, you could not, like, I was like only single, right? Like,
You're living
no
life.
way. Yeah, I was living my life. Like, I did not want a relationship. I did not want to get married. I wanted to dabble. I love dabbling. I loved dating. So, Betches, if you need dating advice, let me know. But you had you know, like, you've been with JJ for
10
how
years.
many years? 10 years.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I think it's, you know, this is an example between the both of us, right?
Yeah.
Like, she was in a very long relationship. I was single mingle. And our friendship has grown through all the way to where we're at today, probably like a decade later. And
Yeah.
we've never had comparisons. We've never had that feeling between us. So I
No.
think part of it too is to make good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's those people that love to like throw things in your face.
Yeah.
Oh, like they suck.
No.
And that's the thing
Yes.
you'll realize in your 30s too. It's all about quantity, not quality. I have only a
Yes.
handful of friends
No,
now, but
you
they
meant
are ride or dies.
You meant quality over quantity.
Yes, that's what I meant. The other way.
We understood. We got it.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah,
never know nowadays. Someone's going to come in the
right.
comments and be like, you are contradicting yourself. But no, it is.
I retract.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it is quality over quantity. You know, like, a lot of people, here's my advice. People do not have to stay in your life forever. I think this younger generation needs to get this as a clue. It is okay to have a season for a friend, right? Maybe it's a bar friend, right? Just for your 20s. And then you graduate to maybe a work friend. And maybe you hang out with them for a little bit. Like, the whole concept of like, you have to have this big tribe and every single person has to get along and know each other. And you guys are all doing dinner dates and this and that and blah, blah, blah. That's not real.
Yeah.
And that sounds exhausting.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you made that point because that's something that I've honestly grown to learn this past year. I have a few really close friends that I can also count on my hands, but I think growing up, I took friendship breakups so hard because I looked at that relationship and placed so much expectation on it. Like, for example, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this girl's going to be at my wedding as my bridesmaid. Like, you're my best friend forever. And it places so much expectation on it. So when, you know, life inevitably happens, we change, we grow. And sometimes, you know, the people that you grow into don't align with each other. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't have to be a whole, oh, like, fuck that girl, I'm not friends with you anymore. Like, you messed me up. It can just be as simple as, hey, we were really great together at a time, but now, you know, it's not a fit anymore, and that's okay. Like, let's move on. And so that was really hard, a hard lesson for me to learn, that it's okay for you to not, it's better for you to just let that person go, let them be the season, and instead of forcing that friendship to continue just because, oh, I thought you were going to be with me for the long haul. Like, I thought you were going to be at my wedding.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'll get better at it too with time.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the concept of eat your frog?
No.
Oh my gosh. My boyfriend told me that like years ago, and I was like, what are you talking about? I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Please enlighten the audience.
So eating your frog, and I didn't make this up, and I don't know who did, okay? But eating your frog is basically the idea to do the one thing you don't want to do first,
Yeah.
right? So like if you're procrastinating something, just do it first. Because if you don't eat your frog, you just carry that weight on you. And then you just carry the anxiety on you. It could be as simple as like a work call. Oh, I don't want to call this person. And then you don't call them. And then the whole day, all you're thinking about is, I don't want to call this person. Just call the person first thing in the morning and get it out of the way. It's kind of the same when it comes to life situations. Like, eat your frog.
Yeah.
True.
That's going to be my new motto. I totally told him that he was crazy. I was like, I've literally never heard that in my life. And he's like, no, it's a saying. I was like, okay.
Full circle moment for you.
Yeah. Well, I would love to bring it back to MomBetch and just the mission of your podcast, because I know that a big part of it in your message is empowering women, encouraging them to step into their power, not only as a woman, but also as a mother. I'm curious, though, how do you approach stepping into your power or maintaining that power and resiliency when you've faced a lot of adversity, or like maybe you didn't have really good models in your life of powerful women and that kind of thing? Like, how do you navigate that?
Like, for me, I want to put into this world what I want to see. And even if I don't have something, I want to be that something. So I grew up in a space where I wasn't necessarily like, hi, honey, welcome home, love you, dinner's on the table, right? Like, I was typically the one that, like, came home, yeah, dinner was maybe on the table, but, like, I don't know if it's because I'm part Asian. I don't know, and I don't want to get too deep into that. But I feel like I was raised maybe a little differently than some of my friends, where, you know, their parents were really guiding them to make their decisions. And so for me, I realized at a younger age, like, I'm probably not going to have that guidance. I'm probably going to have to figure things out a lot for myself. And so I decided at a younger age that I don't want people to feel the way I felt growing up. And I'm not saying I had a very sad life. I'm just saying, in moments where I didn't feel good, I always told myself, if you're ever in a situation where someone else is feeling this way, make change. And so I think for me, at least, the podcast, like, there's so much that happens when you become a parent. And one person is never going to be the expert at everything. And so with my personality, with my skill set, right? If I can connect people, I love doing that. And if I can just have one guest on the podcast that can answer a question for 5 women, right, that they desperately need, like, that's my passion. That makes me happy. And that's also going to make me a better mom. You know, selfishly, like, I'm putting myself out there in ways that most people don't. And I'm learning a hell of a lot, and I'm meeting a hell of a lot of people. And I think, you know, the takeaway is just to lean in and to not get in your way. Like, just be open, right? Like, there's a good world out there too.
Yeah. What about you, Cami?
You know, the podcast in a way is see, I would never do this in a million years.
No way.
This was first off, this was never in my atmosphere. This was not on my my list of accomplishments for my life. Celia was like, "You're gonna do this." It was just gonna be one episode, and then people were like, "You guys are really good together. Like, congrats on your podcast." I'm like, "This is not my podcast. This is my friend's podcast. I was just a guest." And they're like, "Oh, really? That's a shame. Like, you should contact her. You know, think about being her co-host." And I was like, "What?" And so here I am. And so this is very against my principal self. I am an introvert. I'm very introverted. I've lived in my head my whole life. I've gotten all kinds of comments growing up. Teachers thought something was wrong with me. Like they would talk to my mom parent teacher conferences and be like, maybe something off with her. I just live in my head and I always have, and that's where I like to be. It's safe in there, and that's where I can talk and have conversations. But anyways, becoming kind of a public figure on the podcast was a bit of an adjustment for me. I like to live in the shadows and not really voice my opinions, but my husband really encouraged me to do this because he's like, a lot, you have a lot of science background, you've done a lot of research, a lot of things that, and I talk to my girlfriends, like when they get pregnant, I'm like, this is what you need to do. You got to do this, 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 and this. Like, oh my God, Camellia, like, I'm so glad you told me all of your recommendations were on point. I would have never known about this stuff. Like, you do such good research, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you have something you need to share with the world.
Yeah.
And so it's really, kind of pushed me into a new person, and I'm really thankful for Celia and the encouragement and being able to hopefully help women and educating them.
Yeah. No, I definitely relate to being an introvert. This is also out of my comfort zone. Like, I don't like talking to people. I don't like meeting new people or being the center of attention. So it's definitely been a learning curve. But I agree. I think you both have so many unique strengths as women, and together, like, y'all are a badass combo.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I would love to hear more about the MomBetch method. What is it? Can you speak on that? And what can someone expect to gain from this MomBetch method?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to sum it up very short and sweet. But when I was postpartum, I had what is called post-preeclampsia, and I won't get into it because you guys aren't, well, maybe some of you are pregnant, but just DM me if you ever have questions on post-preeclampsia, okay? Because I am now a master of it. But ultimately, I was in the hospital for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the hospital for a couple weeks. I'm with my newborn. And then I get home, and then I'm terrified. And then, heart races. And now I'm at a cardiologist, and I'm at all these specialists. And then, long story short, it ends up being I have PSTD from the experience, and I have panic disorder. And so, a psychiatrist, therapist appointment later, I'm on medication, which I wasn't really fond of, and I'm very thankful for now. And, I started to see hope. But during that experience, and I know we go through this before we become a parent, but I don't know, because we're so fast paced, if we take time to really like put pen to paper and think about it. I created a journal, and it's the MomBetch journal. And honestly, like, I need to make a version that doesn't just say like MomBetch on it, just because it's not really for moms.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, the purpose of the MomBetch method is every single journal, right? Everything that you purchase is always like gratitude, happiness,
Mm-hmm.
what's your passion, right? Like, all of the good things. I never found anything that put my triggers in front of me. So, like, yes, I definitely have the passion for the day or the motivation for the day, but what's my trigger for the day? Like, what's the thing that I have to get over? And how am I going to change my behavior so I can work on that? And so the MomBetch method is really equal parts positivity and being realistic with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I think we're just trying to paint this perfect picture, and that's where a lot of our comparison to each other comes from, because we so desperately want to have it all that we're not taking the time to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so putting the triggers in front of you and actually working through them has changed my world as a mom, because now I have a lot of more grace on myself, and the trigger doesn't have to be something like crazy. Maybe my trigger is like I have too many meetings on my calendar, or my trigger could be, hey, I made plans when I was feeling really cool, and now I don't want to go and I don't want to hurt my friend's feelings. Like, it's just dealing with things that are normal, that are going to pop up. And
Yeah.
it's a way for you to reflect both positive and challenges.
Wow, that is a certainly powerful tool. And you're right, I've bought so many journals, and none of them are putting you in a place to do that kind of work. I love that.
Growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, touching on the topic of motherhood. So
Mm-hmm.
I know I actually do have some listeners who have kids already. Some of my friends have kids.
Hey, congrats.
Yeah, love that for them.
Yeah.
But for me, I
Yeah.
I have
We're
a
like,
lot
do
of
you? No,
Relate.
just joking.
I have a lot of anxiety around motherhood and just
Yeah.
like I love children. I mean, I used to be a teacher. I love kids so
Yeah.
much, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that I think, or at least I don't know. I think I would be a good mother, but I feel so much anxiety just thinking about how I am responsible for a completely new human being in this world. And my mom, I mean, I grew up in a immigrant household and like love my mom. She tried her best. I mean, there's a lot of, we
Right.
can get into generational trauma and all that stuff, but um ultimately there are days, where my mom had bad days, and like I don't want to
Yeah.
have a bad day as a mom and end up fucking up my kid, and they're 20 something year old trying to like
You won't.
heal something that their mom did to them. So I don't know, what's some advice you have like for this anxiety, because I know it's not just me who feels this anxiety about becoming a mother.
Yeah. So the cool thing about kind of our digital age is that there's so much information. Now, I'm not talking about the crap information. I'm talking about from like licensed psychologists, childhood experts.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned a lot about it, and it's taken away a lot of anxiety. You're not going to fuck up your kid. It's okay. You are going to lose your cool. Like, everyone just needs to accept that. You're
Yeah.
going to snap at your kid. No matter how hard you try, you're just going to lose it one day. You come home from work, maybe you just stayed home all day. You're probably more likely to lose your shit if you stayed home with the kid all day by like 5 o'clock, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's all about repair. And that's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to repair. Like my parents, it wasn't a thing. They did not repair. They blew up at me, and then I just went and sat in my room. And, that's something I have to deal with now. But, and also it's as part of the healing is that they didn't know, like they didn't have access to all this information. They're not terrible people. They did what they thought was best or what they knew. They didn't know anything better, but I know better now. And so you go to your kid and you say, that was really scary. Like, mommy raised her voice and she needs to work harder at that, and she will, and I'm so sorry. And you hug them, and then everything will be fine. They'll say, okay, mommy, that's okay. And life moves on. The same as if you have an argument with your husband or partner or whoever you're with, and they see that, and that affects children as well. I'm sure we all have like memories of that and trauma from that. But my parents never talked to me about it afterwards. It was just kind of left on my own to deal with that, and that's not what you do. You go, maybe together, maybe one-on-one, and you say, that was scary, and we love each other, and we're working through something. And you have to show them how conflict resolution happens. So do it in front of them. Apologize to your husband, or have your husband apologize to you, and show them a healthy resolution, because that's also going to shape them in the future of how they're going to pick a partner and know what is good and what is healthy, and not just having screaming, battles and so forth. But I would say I had more anxiety about becoming a mom, and when you're thrown into it, it's just go time. Like, you just got to get it done, and you read the books and you do your best. And I think that if you're open and honest, and you can apologize, because that's not really a thing for our parents' generation. And if you can take ownership that, yeah, I probably didn't do things the best all the time, but I'm a human being and I really tried. I think that is going to make the difference.
Yeah. Wow.
I'll take like the newborn, like the pregnancy, newborn side of it, because I was very similar. right, to Cami, I wasn't sure if I wanted a child. I never had that like desire, like that maternal, like have a baby. But I naturally realized, probably just the same as you, like I do want to have a little one. And the timing was right. But I think you always hear horror stories from people. Like I remember, like before I was pregnant, I was always scared, like, oh, I'm gonna just be fat after I'm pregnant. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff I thought
It's
about.
true.
Like
I don't want to.
I don't want to be that, you know. And then I realized, like, no, you just have to eat healthy and organic, and like you're not eating for two. You're
No, it's
eating
a
for
lie.
one person. Like a lot
Yeah.
of the stuff that people say that scares you is actually just like I don't even know
Not
where
true.
it comes from, because when you're actually in the situation, and I'm not saying everyone has an easy pregnancy, because there's so many things that could happen,
Yeah.
but it's millions and billions of people do it, right? And so our bodies are equipped to do it. Like you can do it, right? Like we've been doing it for so long. And a lot of times I think because we have so much consumption, we forget that they've been having babies since before modern medicine. Like our bodies are built for it. And when you have the baby, you just know what to do. And I used to be like, obviously, it's very hard, I think, for new time parents or even second time parents, because the parent is the one that's actually like going through the trauma because you don't sleep, right? Or you are just like everything that you do to take care of yourself when you're single kind of goes away in that first year. To Cammy's point, you're just kind of doing it. And so with that said, like the baby's actually, you know, and do not judge me if you have a colicky baby or if you have something in particular. I'm just saying babies eat, poop, and sleep.
Simple as that.
Right? They just do it very often. And so you're not sleeping because of it, right? Like you're attending to the baby. So the one advice I have for anyone feeling anxious is like just take care of yourself and ask for help. It's okay to ask for help.
Yes.
Yes.
Ask for help.
Like when I was pregnant and we got close to giving birth, I actually, if you know me, this isn't surprising, but if you don't know me, you might be like, who is this bitch? But I actually gave my family packets. And
it's very on brand.
And each packet contained recipes and chores. And you were not allowed in my home
That's
unless
amazing.
you brought something that I needed, right? Like you weren't coming into my home to hold the baby and then me take care of you and the baby. Like you came to my house, you took care of me.
No.
So like, and it wasn't just like, oh, make me soup. It was like, no, this is the recipe.
That's amazing.
Like.
Yeah.
Because it is not common sense. You think it's common sense. You think that like, oh yeah, someone's have a baby, duh. No, my mother-in-law came over to my house the day after I delivered and did nothing. She sat down on the couch. She didn't lift a finger. My husband made dinner for all of us, and she had the audacity to sit across the kitchen table from me and say, doesn't it just taste so much better when someone else makes it? I gave her the dirtiest look of my life. Like, and it's just, so Celia, 10 out of 10, I give you all the applause for that, because sometimes, you know, and then you avoid any conflict because you just spelled it out for everyone. Because honestly, people, they need it. And nothing will annoy you more than if people come over to your house and you're like losing your marbles. When you're sleep deprived, you become a different person. You're angry, like volatile, like to the next degree, because you're sleep deprived so much. So,
I mean, like depending on how you have birth, you either have a massive scar or your vagina's torn from your vagina to your butt, right? Like you're bleeding.
Yeah.
You're
not selling this very well.
I mean, like this is the reality, right? Like your body is like blah, right?
It's traumatic.
So on top of it,
trauma
you're
to your
busy.
body.
It is.
I mean, Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's gross. Like
You
it's
have like the size of a dinner plate hole
Yeah.
in your uterus. Okay. So you
yeah, like
need to heal and
you
you need to
need to
take it
heal.
easy and stop with the fucking snapback body and
Yes.
working out, because you are going to endanger, you're going to damage your pelvic floor, and then you're going to be in the OR with vaginal prolapse, which means your
Yeah.
vagina is falling out of your body. Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone needs
Like
to chill out.
yeah, chill out. Like if you sneeze and pee,
Not
like you
normal.
don't need to be working out, okay?
No.
Like you need to like chill.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean like it's just very natural, and I think yeah, just ask for help. And like you do have to put up a lot of boundaries. And so where I
Yeah.
see a lot of people fail is, you know, I feel like a lot of times we're people pleasers, and so we don't want to, you know, put boundaries up because we don't want conflict. But then that in
Mhm.
turn sometimes
Makes
creates
it.
more conflict. Yeah.
Mhm.
So like I've always been a firm believer of just like, and I've always been this way. And I know not a lot of people are, so it's hard for me to understand why not. But like I always ask for what I want. And
Mhm.
especially when I was pregnant, I was like, I am building organs. Okay. Like I am birthing your grandchild. Okay. You're going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
When I want,
There you
if you
have
want
it.
to hold this baby.
As you should, though. Like, you're literally a superwoman. So
Yes.
you're not going to lift a finger.
Yeah. Once you're pregnant, though, once you're in it, I think the anxiety kind of starts to dissipate, because now it's like
Yeah,
not
it's
it's
real.
like it's real. It's not the unknown. You know, think of anxiety. Anxiety is anxiety for a reason. It's not
It's not
what's going to
known.
happen, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not the source of truth.
Mhm.
So I
I
think
agree with that.
yeah.
I had
So
anxiety about childbirth.
yeah, and then once you're in it, you're just kind of like
Like
in it.
whatever. Yeah, you're
Like
in
you're
it.
not thinking about it. You're just
Mhm.
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very like natural. It's very weird.
Yeah.
I gave birth without an epidural. I had a doula. Not because the doula and the epidural, that's a common misconception. Like if you want an epidural, you can have a doula too. Just
I
throwing that
did.
out there. So, you know, doulas
I
are
was
great. They support you. They support your partner. They tell them what to do. They told my husband to take a
Mhm.
nap in the chair. I wanted to kill him, but like I couldn't because the doula told him to do that.
Yeah.
And she takes care of you, you know. And anyways, so I delivered without an epidural, and I forgot what I was going. The point of this.
I mean,
What
I'll
were-
take the point, but it's like that's just another example of
There was a
getting the
point. I don't
help that
remember
you
the point.
need, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
But yeah,
going back
doulas, man.
to
I honestly, no, I want to say one more thing. Me and James wouldn't have made it out of that hospital married if it weren't for our doula, because James had no idea what to do, and that doula carried us on her
I
back.
believe it.
I remember the point. The point is that I remember laying there in the hospital bed, and I just felt the urge to push. And it's just like very weird. You just like your body just knows what to do. And I was like kind of like in this weird trance. You read books about it. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
You like go into like this like kind of like other dimension, and you're just kind of like hanging out there, and you're just like
Yeah.
pushing. I don't know. It's a weird thing. And this is coming from someone, I had severe anxiety about giving birth. I was scared that my vagina was going to be stretched out for the rest of my life. Like it was going to be
That
like
is
throwing a
me.
hot dog
No,
down the hallway. It snaps back, ladies. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
They'll sew that back up.
Yeah. Like it's all good.
Yeah, you're all
I don't have
good.
anything
Okay.
weird down there. It
Yeah.
looks like a normal vagina. So everything's
And
good.
you even know when it's game time because it feels like you have to poop. When you feel like you have to poop, it's like, okay, like this is game time. It's time. The baby's coming out.
I didn't feel like that.
Oh, I did.
Mm-mm.
These are very good tips, though, because I have a whole freaking library of videos and articles on childbirth, raising children, because I have so much anxiety. Like, I just want to get it
a
right.
doula.
Okay. Yeah. Get
No,
a doula
seriously.
and make sure everyone does everything for you and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and work out.
Yes.
That is another common misconception. Work out because it'll help you with labor.
Yeah. But I want to go back to that story about your mother-in-law coming over.
Yes.
Like, like she's at a restaurant. I also think though,
Yeah.
in situations where like your in-laws are doing something, I feel like it is also your partner's responsibility to communicate to their parents, like, hey.
Oh, he tried. He tried.
Yeah.
He tried to get her up from the couch. He was like, Mom, you're going to help me make this salad. She was like, me? No, bitch. The other mother-in-law. Like, who the hell, like, who else are we talking to? Like, and she's like, oh, and she like barely chopped a cucumber. This is not an exaggeration. This is true. And then she sat down again. So, I mean, there's only so much you can do with a
Yeah.
bitch. I mean,
That's crazy.
I will also say though, if your husband is like too nice, it's on you to talk to your own in-laws too. Like for me, if I tell James, hey, a boundary's being crossed, my husband's gonna be like, do you want a cookie? Yeah. Yeah, let's go cookie. Yeah. Celia's tired. Like, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, so I've taken a different approach, and I think it's okay to just be real.
But they're reasonable. My mother-in-law is
all
not
depends on the
reasonable.
No, I'm not comparing.
Yeah.
I'm
just
saying,
saying.
no,
she's crazy.
Yeah. So if you have unreasonable expectations, yes. But if you have reasonable in-laws, just have those conversations.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
But that's not a thing for me.
I like can't relate. Yeah. No, I do think it's important to know who your partner is. And also it circles back to what you're talking about. Like picking your partner is so important. Because if you're marrying, a mama's boy who doesn't know how to set boundaries with his family, everything, like that's what you're marrying into.
Well, you're marrying the family.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, people don't realize that when you get married, it's a whole shift. And you're used to being like the kid and your mom and dad and that's your family, and then and I was 27 when I got married, so I was still like really young, and it's just like you get pushed into, and now it's you and him, and now you put each other first, and everyone else is noise, and he has a very toxic family. We don't talk to them anymore.
Wow.
I'm sure you kind of picked up on that, on how I talked to her about her, but she it took years for him to realize the web that was, he was living in, and it took a lot of marriage counseling to bring it to his attention. So I will say this: go to marriage counseling. And even if you think you have a healthy marriage, go to marriage counseling. Everyone needs to go to marriage counseling, because he grew up or she grew up one way, you grew up the other way, and you're gonna clash on things, and you need to have the tools to get through it without getting a divorce.
Yes. See, you're getting it from us big sisses. Like, it doesn't get easier. You just have to own your shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
This is
I think millennials are way better at owning our shit than the younger generations. not to insult anyone, but because we didn't have all of the social media and all of the barriers between us and other people, we communicate it, right? Like, we face things more than I think people that can hide behind social media or their computers.
I will say their generation though does better with mental health though. I feel like it's
100%.
more like
No, I'm not
forefront
hating
than
on
ours.
them.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, I mean, they might not communicate that they're not coming to work, right? But they're taking a break and probably going for a run, just no one knows it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I will say that I think that speaking up, and having the confidence to speak up. Especially in a digital world, like, you have to practice. Think of how many people pick up and call you on the phone. How many people called you this week? None. You know what I mean? So no wonder people feel uncomfortable, having conversations to people's faces, because you don't talk to people anymore.
Communication is a key and foundation to everything. That's a great segue into the last question that I'll ask you here. In 3 words, or however you want, could you describe to me for each of you what the foundations of marriage are for you. Obviously, communication, like we know that. But tell me, as my resident big sis today, like what would you say are the foundations of marriage that have kept your relationships alive?
For me, sarcasm. This is just me personally. Sarcasm. Being able to just like joke around and like stay true to who we are.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, especially being working and a mom and having the podcast, like it's always go, go, go. So like I need someone that can like laugh with.
Mm-hmm.
Another piece of that is being with someone who lets me be who I am. Always. Like, who I am is who I am. If I want to set sail on a new venture, I'm going to have the support to do so. And it goes two ways, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's a new job or a new hobby, like you have to allow people to be individuals. Because if you want them to only be about you, right, or only do things that you want to do, there's going to tend to be some resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last piece for me is having the same goals, right? Like having the same mentality when it comes to when you want to retire, right? Like how we spend our money, like the foundational things that are actually important, because those things don't go away. Adulting doesn't go away, you know?
Yeah. For us, 100% humor. Like we make fun of each other. And it, it keeps us young.
Mm-hmm.
We call each other out on our bullshit. And this is so important because, and my husband had to learn this because he would be one to fester. And then weeks down the line, he'd be like, you did X, Y, and Z, and come at me with a laundry list. And it would infuriate me. Like, I'd be like, shut up. What are you talking about? Like 2 weeks ago. Anyway, so just being honest, like in the moment, being like, hey, you know what? I don't like that. I don't like how you're talking to me. I don't like the tone. Let's pause. And it's okay to come back later. You don't have to deal with it right then and there, but being like open and calling each other on your shit.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say number 3 is finances. If, like we are, it is huge. Like so many people get divorced because of money.
Yeah.
You have to know, like, how does your partner spend money? How do they view money? What do they want to do? Because you can only make someone do so much with money. If they want to spend money, they're going to spend it, whether you like it or not. And then you're going to be pulling your hair out. So you really need to like see how someone you're dating is handling their money. That's going to come with time, but that's kind of a deal breaker, honestly. Like, plug pulling if they're irresponsible.
And if you're listening to us and you're like, why don't they talk about love? That should be automatic, okay? Yeah. That's not even the foundation. But this is just love. Together.
This is love, right? Personified. This is all
love, right? Like this is all the things that keep you in love.
Right.
But it's not like, oh, love and rainbows and like
it's not a Disney movie, ladies.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
No. It's like Jurassic Park.
I'm the T-Rex.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for sharing your wisdom with us today. We'll be wrapping the episode here. But before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners?
I mean, for me at least, like we'd love to have a few more mom betches. Like the one thing that I think I love about Bare and Brutal and MomBetch is like there's no competition. Like it's just getting people empowered and to feel good and to smile and to learn things. So I mean, if you want a couple oldie but goodies to listen to, like we do cool shit.
We do some pop culture. We have some memes. We're kind of
we talk about Drake and T Swift. We know what TTPD means.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but if you know anyone who is newly pregnant or someone who is a mom and looking for new information, or if you think that's an avenue you're going to take one day. You can only learn so much information in 9 months. So you can start, building your arsenal now and picking up little tidbits here and there. And so we'll welcome anyone. We love reviews. If you have a suggestion for an episode, we love feedback. So please hit us up on the website and let us know.
Yeah,
Of course.
MomBetch.com. Betch with an E.
Yes, I know you have your website, but where can the listeners find you both to follow your content?
Yeah, so at MomBetch with an
Betch.
E, BETCH. MomBetch everything, right?
Mhm.
So Instagram is, where us millennials hang. We're trying to get better at TikTok, but you can find us on TikTok. But yeah, I mean, MomBetch.com has, the podcast as well as how you can get a hold of us. And then we're on every single streaming network, so Spotify, Apple, Amazon, etc. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on the show today. It was so much fun chatting with you both. Those of you listening, if you'd like to hear more about the chaos of motherhood or hear hilarious discussions on pop culture, please go show them some love. You can find Cami, Celia, and MomBetch's socials and links all in the show notes. Thanks again, ladies, and thanks everyone for listening.
Bye.
And as always, I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.